Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Mike. I can see a few people there across the room. Looks like we've got Sharon, uh, Marjorie Barnes. Who else is there? Boy, I'm squinting. This is terrible. Catherine Mefford. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. My name is Leslie Ohnstad. I'm the creator of Color Art Products, and I'm your host of Color Play Live on this channel. However many days a week I can get on. I'm really grateful. Hey, Carrie, how you doing? Good morning, sweetheart. I'm glad that I managed to do yesterday and today back to back. Hopefully I've got some new stuff for you guys to see or learn about. So yesterday good morning, Evelyn. How are you, young lady? Yesterday we started phase one on a cone flower on this canvas. And I just wanted to show you my setup kind of to the right that you're not really going to see much of. But over here, I've got like my wash bucket for my brushes, clean water if I absolutely need it. I'm going to use my paper plate today. I really love it because you can wash these and use them over and over and over again. This is going to be where I'm blotting my brush, right? And doing my piece. Now, oh, come on, phone, don't fall out now at me now, please. It got a little torqued there. Stay in there, stay in there. I've got this sitting on something so it's a little bit slanted for you. So yesterday I had transferred the image with graphite paper. I still couldn't find a decent eraser in the house. Fun fact about that though, even after it's completely painted, if you get a good gum eraser, you can still erase some of the graphite lines. I have some good paper coming, and because I haven't unpacked 90% of everything here, so I still need watercolor paper. I need a good pencils, definitely need a good eraser. But yeah, now if any of you remember the piece we did with all the leaves on those birch trees, it was a watercolor piece that I'd started, what was that, 15 years ago when we finished it on camera. And I actually used the Purely pigments mixed up in water to get a watercolor effect. Now, by using the Purely pigments, it's permanent. It's not going to re-wet. And so I'm using the chemistry of the colors today to be able to get the effect that I want. And so in my background, we're going to start with doing like a background wash. I've got to be very careful in between those big chunky leaves that we just get it in there. And then once that's set, when I go over to accent, shade my leaves, do the shading behind the leaves with the primary elements or the watercolors, I'm not going to get a bleeding effect. Now, I was looking for my gel medium last night because in the head, I started with adding texture with the primary elements, just using them thick and then taking the brush to kind of create the effect of a head. The head of a cone flower technically has, of course, this is one of two of them, but technically has seeds or something there in the center. So I couldn't just like paint it one color. We're going to try to do some kind of effect on that today. But the first thing I want to do is get a background, permanent background color in there before I go over the top of this with the watercolors. So I have, and also in that piece, I was talking about the piece in the trees and the birch trees. We discovered a combination that I really quite liked. When I was using the venomous viper and a little bit of rusted oxide, I got kind of a really pretty dirty green. And then over here on this other side, my dominant color is, hey, Andrea, good morning, is a yellow orange or orange yellow, depends on how you look at it. And I'm going to ask a question of the audience. What would be the complement to a yellow orange? Now, let me go back on camera just so I can say this, that when you look around your environment, almost every color has a second tone. There's a dominant and a non-dominant. it is an orange yellow, or like I said, a yellow red, or a yellow orange, or a yellow green. I know it's probably too early in the morning for some people to get this down. Yeah, Sharon is correct. So a yellow orange would be complement to the yellow would be purple. And Mike is right. The complement to the orange would be blue. So a purple blue or a blue violet would be color similar to the periwinkle. Or I barely got a little bit out of there. Or that Peribelle color. I scraped some on the side of this that I'm going to use. It's more blue than violet. And a blue violet complements an orange yellow, or a yellow orange would be purple blue, however you want to look at it. But that is the strongest complement to what we're using. So, yes, kids, you got that right. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. So I'm going to add a little water to a couple of these colors. I was going to do this off camera, and then I thought maybe it would be a good thing for you to see what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So let me get a little water in these. I've got to get this camera. I'm having a little trouble with this. What's orange, Evelyn? What is orange? So this is the venomous viper and the red oxide. And again, when we were painting those leaves, I was putting down the green and then putting a little red oxide in there, and it just kind of made a really pretty dirty green. It wasn't too green. And this is an experiment. We're going to see if this works. If this abstract flower was actually sitting in a group of other flowers, there would be some sort of green background coming between the leaves. At least that's my rationale here on this. So I'm going to add a little water. This is the venomous viper, purely pigment. This is the rusted oxide, purely pigment. This is actually pale lavender, a little bit of the Peribelle, and some white. And I'm going to have to wet down my sides and get them to mix together and see if I can't get a great violet. And I'm just going to do a wash back there. Okay, it's just to get a wash of color. If I put primary elements in there, then next thing you know, they're all bleeding into one another. We don't want to do that. So I want my background to, I've got to test this actually. I need a piece of test stock just to see how bright this is. I didn't even think about that. I think I got some paper behind me. Because to really test out how that color is going to look. Now, this isn't really great cardstock. I need to order some linen stock. This is just some cheap mixed media paper. But this straight is going to be really strong, right? Right? So if I was to take this and water it down more, I really don't want to mess with my watercolor palette here, but water it down more, or how I was doing it before, taking water. And then, again, you got to be very careful, because this area here, we can reawaken those colors there. And I really don't want to. That's why I was going to do this off camera, very carefully, with nobody watching. But I figured this is still something to see. And so far, the crowd in here doesn't seem to be affected by being bored, at least that I've seen so far. So now I'm going to take a tiny bit of this venomous viper, get it into this. Why I'm using the Purely Pigments, it's going to dry permanent. It's not going to reawaken. I'm patting off the excess off my brush. You can't really see me do it per se over here, however much the camera allows you to see. But then I'm going to come in with some of this watered down rusted oxide. I love that green, but where the two mixed, it gave me a really interesting color. So I'm just going to kind of put that up there. We need some kind of backdrop before I start adding shadows. And I'm just going to go back and forth, add a little bit of green and a little bit of rusted oxide till I get the color that I'm looking for. Again, very carefully trying to avoid reawakening that orange that's there. If I can just fade them together, smooth them together that way. This is just a simple backdrop wash. That's all this is for. Just so I've got something there. I've got a little bit of the green on that brush. There's not much space between here. There is a little space between there, but I think I'm gonna not try to fight this so much. I am gonna go right up against where this brown begins on this right side where I blocked this out. And I'm gonna add some of the rusted oxide on there. So it's got the illusion, but I think I'm not gonna take too much risk and go too far up in between those leaves. I just kind of need something down here because I don't just want white canvas with black smudgy marks on it. It's not going to look like a complete piece if I don't have the color in there. Well, that's kind of that bright venomous viper green. That's one of the neon colors. And then this is that rusted oxide, which is kind of like a red oxide. Give me a really cool dirty green, guys. Just a dirty green. I don't need that much rusted oxide because it's too similar to the color in my leaves. But I do like where it runs together. It kind of gives me this really funky, olivey, swampy color. Then I'm going to smooth it out with a brush with no color on it. It's just got, oh, come on, baby. Dry for me. It's not smoothing very easily this morning. I just want to smooth this out. Okay. Then I can take my paper towel and do my little modeling trick, right? And then I don't have to worry about if there's brush strokes there. This is just for a backwash. That's all I'm doing this for. There is a method to my madness. Hopefully it will reveal itself to you soon. Same thing here. I'm going to put a little water on this. Blot it off. Come up with some of this green. Come here with my rusted oxide. I don't want it too green and I don't want it too brown. Just some kind of natural look back there. Again, model it. I get a modeling effect. So it doesn't look like I have paintbrush strokes there. Now I'm going to end up having to go into the purple. So there's going to be a transition there where I believe the background would probably start right around here up, right? And if in a natural environment, your sky or whatever, the sunset or whatever makes a violet sky might be back there. Just getting some color on. Getting a feel for my brushes. It's a lot of color. Kind of just daubing it because I know I'm going to take my paper towel and kind of create an effect there. Remember, this is my piece, not your piece. We can do it any way we want it, right? So let me get this camera straightened out. I had it at the side so you could see my little right area where I'm working. Get this brush nice and clean. Fade this back as much as I can. some of this mopped up. I know you're probably like, so loose and sloppy, Leslie. What is she doing? What is she doing? What is she doing? She's going to flip this around so we can kind of do the top end. I have this straddled on a couple plates and another canvas so I could get this to tilt a little bit for you. Get it something you can actually see me do and sit down and paint. All right, now I'm not sure of this color. We're going to have to do a test on my supposedly pale blue periwinkle mix. Get this, still looks a little bit warm. Am I having fun? Who said I'm having fun? I'm trying to have some fun here. This is, you know, yeah, it's still a little bit warm. I kind of wish it had a tad more blue to it. I don't think I have red shade blue behind me. I haven't, like I said, I know I keep saying this, but not everything is unpacked. So I'm kind of getting lucky on what that's green shade blue. I wonder how much that would dirty that up. Usually I'd use red shade blue, but I just want a little bit of a blue in there. Just a drop, just to take some of that. Uh-oh, looks like I have a messed up dropper top. Thank you, Mr. Dropper Top, right on camera. Oh, goodness. Okay, that's not going to work. Let's find another blue. I have no idea what this is. This could just be straight phthalo blue, but again, I know I'm getting a little uptight on the shade here, but I just want just a new, see, I just put a little drip along the side. That might be all that it needs. Just enough to get it more blue. There we go. That didn't turn out too bad. A little more blue in there. It's hard to tell once it's all mixed up, but it was definitely noticeable when I put that little dab in there. One more time. I'm just going to scrape a tiny bit right along the edge because I'm trying to get a blue violet. I didn't plan this, but it doesn't hurt for you guys to see this process. There we go. There we go. Now that's a periwinkle. That looks like the periwinkle in my jar. Okay. So that's a lot of paint on that brush. Get that thing cleaned off. This thing mopped off, completely mopped off. It's really important that you take care of these watercolor brushes are not cheap. They're made very well. They're trimmed so beautifully. So I'm not going to say they're super expensive. They're silver black velvet, but that's an investment. You know, you don't want to mess with the investment. So I'm just going to try to come right here. Start bringing in my blue violet background. Of course, I know this is going to be really strong color. It's a lot of color in there, so we don't need much. Rinse my brush a bit so I can do more fading than anything else. Again, this is only just to kind of stain the canvas and give it a base. Right, I'm just giving it a base. I have a lot more shading and colors to put in here. But the main thing is get a base. Work out some of that darker violet there. Get this spread around. And by the way, this is fun, I will say. Yeah, I don't want to reawaken those, but I am going to try to come close to where we did our the head of the coneflower yesterday, just so there's a nuance of a little violet behind it, just enough to say, hey, there was some kind of wash background made. A little bit down with that. Just kind of go in here and smooth that violet around so it's stained. And remember, this is not going to reawaken. That's an awful lot of color you just put on there, Les. This is not going to reawaken when I put the watercolors on top of this. It's going to dry permanent. So I don't have to worry about them getting muddy together once I get this backdrop dried. Just give it a little nuance that there was some violet back there. A little bit of the periwinkle. Get rid of that white. I have blank canvas syndrome. I need to get rid of the white. So I'm just kind of letting the tip of my brush go in there. Give a little bit of a feel of that. And then kind of stipple it here. And where's my paper towel? We'll give it again, a background effect. And this was a trick that I learned at the Society of Decorative Painters watercolor class. Trying to remember the name of my teacher. There were several there, but the one that really got me turned on to the silver brush and got all this started. Her name will come to me eventually. I know I said it in another video, but she really was a life-changing experience for me. Okay, so we're going to just dry this. We got our backdrop. We got the Purely pigments done. I'm going to pull them out of the way so they don't get in the middle of what we're doing here. And get this blow dryer going. It should dry really fast because there's not much water on there, but... Last thing we need is some water in there to mess that up. So I'm going to fold over my little swatch towel. Several folds. I've got a clean side here so I'm not transferring that purple onto anything. Going to get these brushes really clean in my super clean wash water and get them taken care of here. All right, so what's next? Well, let's take a look at how this stuff dried last night. So we took some wine and roses, stuck it on these leaves. Oh, it didn't dry too bad. It's actually, I'm getting some dimension. The one I let dry a few days, it took a few days for us to get the dimension, but I'm getting some kind of markings here. They're interesting. I laid it down and then spritzed it just a bit to get some staining. See all our little leaves off. What's interesting to see how dimensional that looks. It's kind of cool. That's the wine and roses. Come on, baby, come up. It's stuck. Oh, here we go. There we go. Even that little pink cast is coming through in those. Wow. I didn't expect all that interference violet to pop up there. That came out pretty cool. And it gave me some dimension. Put my little leaves away for later. Their shelf life isn't very long. You got about a week on these things. And then you're good to go. Okay, so what are the next colors I'm going to do to add more richness to my leaves? I went back and looked at the video this morning of the one I did, the trumpet vine leaves. And one of the main colors I was using a lot of was called pink anthurium. It's not quite as bright as the jasmine, but it has a really pretty coral and adds a lot of warmth. I know I'm going to use some of the chestnut brown. Okay. White for what? White for what? What do you need for white, sweetheart? Sharon, what are you saying, sweetie? And then, I don't know, the ginger peach. I do like that fennel flower. Remember, I told you we still had some fennel flower left in this cup. And then the watercolors that we mixed up yesterday are still in this little thing. I can put them in little spurts if I need them. But now is time to add. Oh, okay. I thought maybe you needed something, darling. Absolutely. Any questions at all? Happy, 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 happy to help. Now that's weird. I spritz that wine and roses, but look how I got a green effect there. That's kind of strange. Well, wait a minute. I thought maybe the first leaf had also some chestnut brown on it. That might be where that green came from. So what I'm going to do is let's start adding some richness. Have to decide where the light is. This is where I always get into trouble because I want to show a lot of depth and shading. Of course, it'd be really fun to end up painting around that way anyway. Let me think. If I'm doing the shadows and they're coming from here, the light's gonna come from here. Yeah, this is where I sometimes get into trouble of deciding where the dark to light is on the leaf and then where my shadow is gonna go. On every one of them so far, I've kind of put a darker color here, except the darker color went there. So let's start with that pink anthurium. Now you're probably all going, what is she doing? She's still just talking. All right, so I'm going to pull some pink anthurium out on my plate. This is a plastic coated paper plate because right out of the pot's too strong. If you guys remember, you need to add water to these before you use them. So there's some pink anthurium on my plate. I'm also going to pull some of this chestnut out. Get some of that. Now get it creamy. You want to stir it up to get that nice creamy color right there. There's some chestnut brown. Oh, you know what else I was using then? I wonder if I got it wetted down. Pink grapefruit. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, I do have some over here. I did wet it yesterday, which means if I wet it now, it may let us use it again. It hasn't completely, it's right up into a solid cake. Now remember those trumpet vine leaves. Oh yeah, this still has a little gooiness to it. I'm just gonna mix this up and let it set for a minute while I get the pink anthurium in. But I'm going to use, see how it gets kind of gooey on the brush? This is the wooden end of the brush, not the, yeah, me too, Mike. Mike says he loves that pink grapefruit. I love that pink grapefruit, especially when you're playing with like the chestnut brown and the pink anthem. I mean, this is all fall, right, kids? It's all fall. I don't want to waste any of it, so I'm trying to get that gooey stuff back in there. I'm just going to let that set a minute and wet up before I pour some out. I'll grab the pot and work out it when I think it's time. But I know I like the bigger brush, but I think I'm going to start with my mid-size. So this is a number 8. And I'm nervous. This is where I'm like, okay, wherever I decide to map this out is where I can get into trouble. So I'm going to, boy, there's a bunch of stuff on that brush. Make sure it mops clean over here where I'm squeaking it out. Okay, so I think I'm going to add some of the pink anthurium. I know I'm overthinking this too much. That's like my masterpiece. I don't want to ruin it. This is the thing we all go through, okay? We all go through that. Oh no, what if I ruin it right now? Well, we won't ruin it right now. We're going to keep using rinse, blot, fade. We're going to fade it into the colors that we did before. That yellow orange was just a base. It's not the permanent, right, of anything. It's just a nice base. I love that pink anthurium. It's a cross between a jasmine pink, but a gorgeous, gorgeous coral. And it just adds so much. And then I'm gonna, because I got a little green happening in here, I'm gonna see if I can't come right up against this yellow and my wine and roses and blend it right in there. That green's a little bit, wasn't expecting that. Lesson learned. All the rest of these were wine and roses, but this one had chestnut brown, and brown is made with yellow, red, and blue. So whatever blue was in there caused it to give me some green. See how much I can come up against this color here and give it a little bit of depth. I don't mind that yellow in there though. But since it was supposed to be a chestnut brown, let's see what happens if I add just a little bit of the brown to this. Try to give that little vein some definition. See if it lets me do that. And I don't want to overwork it. There's some more pink anthurium. I'm going to take and put some chestnut brown down on this end. So I'm picking the darker side, coming up from up underneath here. And then I'm going to add, this is where I suddenly feel like I need the bigger brush. Isn't that strange? For years, I was terrified of big brushes. And now it feels like I can't get the correct fade effect unless I have a brush that holds a little bit more paint. Now, I don't like this dark pencil mark that I've got. Man, I want to put this thing on my lap. I wonder if I can get away with getting the camera just right. Let's see if we can do this. I'm going to try. If I can get this thing right here where it's steadied in my lap, then I'm going to be able, because I paint this way, which means my instinct would then say on this side, I need to paint this way. This is my natural stroke, is to go right to left, not left to right. And now we're getting to the important part. Layer 1 was just layer 1. Now we're getting into where we're going to actually make the details of our piece. And I don't want to lose the form and shape that I got going here. How much can you guys see? I think I need a little bit more chestnut brown right here to get a little definition. Oh, where the two shall meet. Now let's kind of fade that brown into all those oranges we had below, that ginger peach. That was under here. That brown will kind of fade into it. I think I have some ginger peach. Yes, I do, already wetted down. I'm going to just try to grab a little bit of that and get that in my plate in case I feel like I need to add a tiny bit of ginger peach as I'm going here. I felt like I wanted it on this edge. I know it's a challenge doing this on a live, guys. I really appreciate you hanging in there with me while we figure out how to basically paint this in my lap. But I've got to be able to steady this and paint this, right? Can't be painting at a distance, hunched over the canvas and get any kind of power to my stroke, okay? All right, well, I'm liking that peachy pink here. That's that pink anthurium. I am liking what's happening with the chestnut brown. Now I'm doing the rinse blot fade. My entire brush has been rinsed. It's been blotted. There's nothing, very little moisture on it. We're just going to try to fan this in to that wine and roses. A little more ginger peach because I feel like I need it. I don't want to cover up that yellow in the middle too much. I just want to fill this in. A little more of the chestnut brown straight up here in this vein. I'm going to get someone over here to set up the cameras because I know there's people that actually do painting on camera for several hours live. But they've got their 3 different cameras set up so you can see, you know, where they're dipping their brush in the paint, where they're going on the canvas. And it's set up in a way where they can paint. See, I'm not minding that yellow coming back there. That little bit of yellow in the center. I've got a tiny bit of yellow on my brush. I just grabbed some yellow straight from the pot just to kind of bring that yellow back in here so we don't lose the yellow as we're going through those. Wow. Colors are nice. Now let's see how that pink grapefruit's going to look. I like the pink grapefruit right on top of the pink anthurium. I think we need a little more pink anthurium accent here. So I'm going to redefine my pink anthurium. I'll see. Now I'm going backwards again. My hand always wants to paint right. So back up here again. I'm comfortable with the right stroke. I'm not comfortable with a left stroke. I know my weakness there. And then let's see what happens if I take a little pink grapefruit from this pot and kind of grab that pink grapefruit because it blends really nicely with the pink anthurium. Of course, we got this little bit of green that I'm fighting with that came out in that other one. That's okay. A little more pink anthurium down my edge. See how much you guys can see. Because I got this gold edging and I'd rather have it be pink anthurium on the edge now. it warms up that yellow to an orange that's not quite like the pink grapefruit, but I can blend it in. See, now I'm just kind of moving it around. There's a little pink grapefruit on there, a little bit of the ginger peach, able to come here in the center and kind of kiss that wine thing that I put on that leaf effect. I'm going to clean my brush or blot it real good so it's dry and try to get a fade effect without overworking this thing, because I have a tendency to overwork everything. Now that's not horrible color combination. The wine is a little bit strong. You know, experimenting with those leaves and risking those leaves. Yeah, it was risky what I was doing. I'm going to see if I can't take some of that pink anthurium and kiss the wine and roses and keep coming up with that warm color. And it might wipe out some of that green I'm so worried about. So it looks like it belongs. Now up against that chestnut brown, I use some ginger peach. Let's see what happens if I'm using more ginger peach up against that wine color. It sure looks different from the other three leaves now that we've added more color to it. Try not to overwork it. That's my biggest, like I'm saying it over and over again, but it really is. That's like my biggest issue, is wanting to work it and work it and work it. And the thing is, watercolors are never done. There's just comes a point when you say, okay, I can live with that, move on to the next one. Now, we're going to skip this just like we did yesterday, because I've got a lot of color on there. Going to do the same thing, only this time I'm going to come down and kind of do just a vein of pure water. Grab some pink anthurium and introduce it to that vein. Go back the other direction. That also helps too. You go down one direction and then it swoop back up. It kind of helps with the blending. I'm going to bring that pink anthurium a little bit more towards the center to create some shape. Let's see what the pink grapefruit does right here, if it allows me to have a little fun. Still a little bit sticky out of the jar, that pink grapefruit is. Blot my brush, that was a little too wet. I don't want this getting too sloppy. And that yellow I laid down is still going to come through. Remember, with watercolors, they're transparent, they're translucent. So you get a lot of the translucency there. Now I really need some chestnut brown. This is risky. I need to get it a pot over there. I don't want to pick it up and then drop a big blop of it on the pot. So I'm adding more chestnut brown to my plate just so you can see that I'm actually doing this, right? Getting the excess off, pulled off, but just keep pushing it back and pushing it back until that excess comes off. By the way, the pieces of freezer paper that I used yesterday, I pulled up the teal zircon that I had on the head and put it right back in the pot this morning, because it just peels right off the paper plate or the shiny freezer paper. So you're not really going to waste anything. All right, I've done all this to get that. I just forgot to wet my paper first. I got all that cinnamon chestnut brown on there. And now I have no way to get the clean water here. I want to do a clean water effect. I'm going to flip it around again so I can get some clean water right here. And then I'm just bummed about those markings from that paper, that graphite paper. Not much I can do about it. Other than the fun news is you can actually erase it after you've painted on the top of it. It will still erase. So we're going to add some of that chestnut brown in here. Let's give it a really nice defined firm stroke. Let it get thinner as it goes all the way up to the top till we get like a vein of it. Let it fade in. I'm going to take that stroke all the way up to the top, to the base of this thing, all the way to the top, to the base. And then I've got some of that ginger peach I want to add in here, right? Got a little ginger peach. Put a little water on my plate to make it a little bit more washy. Add some of that ginger peach here. Looks like there's not enough on my brush. Let's get a little bit more ginger peach in here. The ginger peach on top of that wine and roses and chestnut brown's pretty, but here's the thing. Do I get a clean edge doing that? It's all about, do you want it really loose and abstract? Does it have to be realism? I guess I'm kind of like straddling both. I want it to look like one of these cone flowers out there. It has great effects. Pull it up here in the middle where it meets. Let's grab a tiny bit of that yellow we used yesterday just to make sure there's still some yellow in here. That blends in with that. That's that sunflower yellow. Still a little bit more sunflower yellow on this side. And now I got paint starting to drip down because I'm holding it at an angle too much. I'm going to end up having to dry this. I'm adding some more of the pink anthurium here at the top. That's interesting. I still have to hammer out how I'm going to get nice clean edges. I want to dry this just for a bit. Just give me a sec. As we got to do these other two. And we know they're going to bleed into one another. So it looks like Looks like it's drying a tad bit faster because I'm not necessarily saturating the whole leaf with plain water, right? I'm adding the water as I go. So it's a little bit less saturated than it was. Still not sure about this one over here that I made so fat. But that's okay. You know, that's this fun thing about experimenting and practicing. And I mean, I'd love to do a whole series of these cone flowers and make the head really textural with gel medium, right? That would be really fun. Okay, so since I got the canvas turned this way anyway, I'm gonna get the, I still think I should do the pink anthurium first, just so I have my, got a gauge of what I'm doing. Okay, so let's get some of this pink anthurium here. Just gonna wet this slightly, ever so slightly. Get some pink anthurium on the brush. Make sure I'm tapping any excess off. I know I'm real quiet right now. I'm focusing on my hand being as steady as I can get it. Now, there's not really going to be a gap between these. So the leaves are kind of I'm not going to put green behind that little white spot. So I'm bringing out the pink anthurium here as close as I possibly can to that white area here, without trying to reawaken the other section. Yeah, I'm in love with that color. Pink anthurium is so beautiful, especially with pink grapefruit. And chestnut brown. That was a happy accident when we were doing the trumpet flower, and I kind of discovered that combination. Here's some of the pink grapefruit going to go in with it now. I'm going to blend that in here with that at the top. God, that keeps coming out so juicy. And there's a lot of mica in pink grapefruit. Have to remember that. There's a lot of interference gold in it. That's the color that's in there. Hopefully you guys can still see this fairly well. I'm not seeing any comments. So you guys might be doing your laundry and just listening to me. I don't know. I can't really see the screen anyway. I'm focusing on what I'm doing. So hopefully this is a good teaching moment for all of us. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over because I want to get my chestnut brown on the other side, and I have my little gimpy issue with me always wanting to paint like this. Get some water up here. Like to somehow, I love it to where if the leaf kind of felt like it took a curl. I don't know if I can get it to do that. Sometimes you can do that when you're doing your background. When you start to add your shadows, you can kind of make it look like it's got a little curl to the leaf. Now I'm going to take some of that ginger peach, get a dab of that on my brush, incorporate that ginger peach with that chestnut brown, and bring it right up against that wine and roses that the fresh leaves from the yard had given us. Keep moving that up. I'm going to take some more of that chestnut brown. I keep coming up here to get us some definition of what we're doing. Can I just say how relaxing this is, whether it's something that's your cup of tea or not, or color combination or not, just sitting down and moving these colors back and forth on the canvas, it is real therapy. It doesn't have to be our color art colors, even though they are fun and sparkly. But working with color, they're proving, is good for your heart rate, reduces stress, increases endorphins, hormones. I mean, it just, serotonin, all that good stuff, like sitting out in the sun does for us. So there is something really beneficial about doing this. I'm going to dry that section right there real quick. I'm getting water moving. Hopefully one of these days I'll get really good. I have to practice at the whole leaf thing and the plant thing, you know. So this is the one I just tried. I just saw a little bit too much puddle of water in there. Oh, good for you. Zero gravity chair. Good for you. In the sun. Good for you, girl. Get your vitamin D. So this center here, it looks like it lost its yellow, and like all the rest of them, I brought back the yellow dead center. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of that yellow back in here, right next to our wine and roses. So we haven't lost it. I know I covered up the wine and roses. Don't worry, guys. It'll be revealed again. We have more wine and roses to redefine our veins, but we want to get our base color down first. Decide what it's going to be. Where does it stop and start? Where is the shadow, right? What's the light side and the dark side of the leaf? I love sunflowers too. So since I've got it at an angle here and I got that chestnut brown, I am going to start on this area here. It's funny that I ended up putting chestnut brown here in the gap. I could have put the green here. That might have made sense, or the purple there. At the time when I did it, I was just blocking this out. My idea of using the Purely Pigments as the background kind of hit me this morning, because I knew if they don't react to each other. I won't be able to reawaken this background color I put on there. So as I put the shadows beneath it, I'm not going to have to worry about it running. Okay, let's add a little brown. That's a lot of water there. I might have made a mistake. I'm already getting a puddling here. Hang on a minute. See how that water's going up right here in the head? We don't want that. I added too much water. Got to watch your water while you're doing this. Remember, we're playing with watercolors. Let's grab some of that ginger peach. This is a really big leaf here. I made this extra huge. That means I get to like do chestnut brown, autumn leaf, I don't know, do I add that little dollop of yellow? I'm being consistent here, that dollop of yellow coming back in. And then the pink anthurium. I'm going to go kind of strong on the pink anthurium. I know it's an odd angle to do it this way, but again, my little swipey right thing. So I'm going to try to get, I want it to start up here, but I need it to define this whole entire side of what I'm doing. Need a little more water. Looks like it's drying up there. It's not moving that easily. That's kind of I like that, how that one turned out. The yellow's a little bit, didn't blend in that much of that ginger peach, but that'll be easy. Just take a dab of the ginger peach and it'll immediately warm up that sunflower yellow. So let's look at the head of this thing. I mean, all the leaves all over again, and I'm talking about the top here. I still think I need more definition on I was a little nervous on defining this area here, so now I'm going to go in there and do a real strong, smooth stroke. Full definition of the pink anthurium. Let's do that again. Nice, strong stroke, pink anthurium. So I'm not being wimpy about my definition. Can always add more color, but you can't, if you put too much on there at once, you can't really take it away. That's not bad. And the pink grapefruit now kind of falls in there. It's very subtle. I thought I had it up here for a nice strong line. Come on, buddy. Give me a nice, strong, defined line. Same thing here. I got a little wimpy on this one, a little timid. It's now time to come in with a real strong vein, believing in what I'm doing. Just going, okay, all the way down. This is your defining moment in your coneflower, Leslie. A defining moment, yes. And kind of feather that in. Let's see what my other one looks like here. This is the one I really haven't dried yet, but I want to make sure I have the definition of the pink anthurium on the one side is saying this is where the leaf begins and ends, or the petal begins and ends. And here is your really nice defined line. Hopefully you guys can see me do this. Have to keep looking down where I'm painting, then looking up at the camera and making sure we're in focus here. So the point is, you just keep gradually adding and building color until you feel like you've got the definition. This doesn't look anything like what we started with this morning, right? Needs a little bit of drying. Oh, gosh, thank you, Andrea. That was very sweet of her. Andrea said she learns a lot. And that's kind of the point of why everybody's doing YouTube videos. At least it's what my idea of the point is. We're here to teach. Remember, when people are doing film videos, they're pretty much stuck to a time frame, or they're not going to Thank you, Catherine. That was very sweet of you to say. Catherine said she's a good teacher. That's really sweet of you to say. I have some stuff to share, but there's definitely certainly a whole lot I still have to learn. So thank you. So I've been thinking all night about how I want to do this head. I'm not done there, but I want to let this rest a little bit, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to do on the top. So, like I said, a cone flower. Where's that image again? Got all these images here. The cone flower kind of has this seed thing. So this is kind of my loose interpretation of it, right? So trying to think if I can get just the right little brush here. Is this a number? This is an 8. I think this is also an 8. Well, maybe the 8. So when I was thinking about this last night, the base of every one of them can have a color, like a shadow color put down. There would be the base on the gold, then a base on the turquoise, chestnut brown could be incorporated in there. So then you've got your gold and your turquoise popping up. You're going to think this is a little nutsy maybe, but yesterday when I was laying those colors down, I was imagining a little bit of, believe it or not, jasmine pink up in the head. I mean, it is my flower after all. This one I'm going to work right out of the pot. I went a little bit stronger, but not as thick as yesterday's. I just want to make sure that I have good, strong color. I hope this is the right brush. If I go top down, then I shouldn't get my hands over the top of something. So I'm simply going to add a highlight color in each one of these. All to the left. Dip into it's almost like an emerald. It feels like I'm dipping into an ink right now, but all to the left. So it's on the same side. I'm hitting the gold right now. It doesn't mean I'm ignoring the blue, the turquoise. I'm just, boy, you can't really hardly see what I'm doing here. Sorry, guys. Trying to hit the base. I know I've kind of done the top of the leaves, but the trick was to kind of do the base, right? And do the base of every one of these. So the base of the blue and the base of the gold and the base of the blue. Going over the top of that blue, it's really creating a nice purple, and going over the top of the gold, of course, it's creating like a red. But every one of these needs a little base color. Oh my God, this part's still not dry. Give me a minute. I could have really messed things up there. Yeah, there was a puddle of paint right here, and if I had rested my hand at all, I would have been in trouble. So I'm dipping into more of the jasmine, and I'm just going to do shadow, shadow, shadow. Just at the base of every one of those little petals. Technically, these little blue and gold things are like my little abstract version of a seed pod or a little thingy in there. You get my point. See how you guys are missing. This is a hard part. I gotta keep checking the camera to make sure you can see me. My apologies if I get out of focus here. Definitely not my intention. And it drives me crazy when I see somebody do a video and then I can't see what they're actually doing. Drives me kind of nuts. And then down here, it's like they're going forward. Yeah, so little can't add so much. Going forward, they're going to go forward too. In the pod, they are three-dimensional. They go all the way around. So this would be the base here, hitting these little bases just a little bit. So I'm consistent. This is how I'm putting in my shadow on this little thing. Hopefully this works. This is at least what my fantasies told me to do. And by the way, I've never done this before, guys. You're seeing it first time on camera. My attempt at an abstract coneflower. You see, this is going to add a little dimension where those two blues got together. So we have a more of a defined here too, a defined seed pod. A defined seed pod. Okay, so is there any more blue? Here's another one, turquoise blue I didn't hit. Now there's also some golds I didn't hit. I want to make sure they all have a base before I start adding more in there. It's going to kind of define our little top area. Yeah, we had Rinskin here last Saturday. I was such a fangirl. Are you kidding? I went nuts because she was here. But she said I was brave doing lives because it's risky. There's a risk in, flopping on camera. Then if you go with the idea that this is an intuitive painting, so technically, according to what they tell us, whoever they is, supposedly you can't flop on intuitive painting, but can you? See, now I kind of regret putting the veins up to the right there, but that's how I did it. There's another little section here. I'm just hitting the base of everywhere where it was gold and everywhere where I have a blue mark. So I'm checking my spots here. All right, so then in theory, there should be brown behind it, right? In theory, because it is got a brown thing to it. I don't have any autumn leaves, so we're gonna stick with the chestnut brown that we've got. Let's see where that pot is. Okay. We can all flop, baby. Every one of us can flop. But in art, is it a flop or is it a learning thing? Is it an experiment? Are we learning? Okay, so now I've got brown in here. I just want to, at this moment, fill in all the spaces that don't have the blue. Let's see if this works. Doesn't have the blue or the pink or gold. Kind of fill it in. I don't want it too thick, but I don't want it too thin. I want to be able to just flow some color between, or well, this is really becoming a challenge to see for my eyes. Let's see if I can do it from this angle. So I'm just filling in some brown in here. They have a brown tone, and then I've always seen a wine tone. So we're going to do the brown and then see if I can't come back and accent on top of the brown with a little wine and roses. At least that's what I'm going to try. But we're going to get some definition here because we've got all this white space in here that needs a little something, something. Like here where I put in that pink around the gold, it makes more sense to actually edge that with the chestnut brown and define my sections. And then the same thing with the blue. Anywhere where I got a little tip coming up the top, I'm adding a little bit of the, I gotta turn this again to another angle that we can all see. No risk, no reward, right? Like I said, I kept seeing taking different gel medium and color it up and texturing it. And it could still be done on top of this. But I felt like I needed to like try to attack how to do a base color. Like I am determined to be able to paint hydrangea flowers, and they're tiny and small and square and a pain in the neck, but someday I'm going to master that. Because other people can do it, so why can't I? It's a practice thing, right? So we're getting a little more definition in here. Let's turn this way now. I need a little more water on my brush. It's not flowing as nice as I'd like now. But I don't want it too sloppy. We just need it a little bit wet so that it goes there, but then it doesn't run. We don't want it to run. That's the last thing I wanted to do is run. So happy Saturday morning as I'm doing this. We're going to talk again. I told everybody yesterday. So one of our buildings, 108, will be done by Halloween. We're going to hand over the keys. The second building, we're going to be bulk packing lots of minerals we use to make our paints in 4-ounce jars. You guys will get a deal. And there'll be different prices because some of these minerals are more expensive than others. And then this week, counting down to Halloween, you're going to notice Primer Element sets going out of stock. And when we hit that, it's probably because we're down 3 colors. Maybe we can't make one of the colors. We're going to stop making the new colors for them and bulk pack out the primer elements in those sets. And because everybody's asking, you're going to have a sale. I am going to do a bulk pack deal for the first couple of weeks of November. It may run to the end of November. It depends on how this goes. But we know we're going to be out of building 1 by Halloween, and we've got to be out of building 2 by December 1st. That's just a fact of life. So however this rolls, the way to do this is for me to have a bulk pack all done by week 3. The ding in the background. Which ding? You mean in this background, on my painted background, or the ding sound in the background in my house? Which ding are you talking about? Or the dingbat that's painting for you? Ha ha ha. Yeah. Apparently, okay, now it didn't do it when I first moved in. It didn't do it when I first moved in. I don't know what I did. I probably touched the thing. It goes off like every, I don't know, minute. I know it drives you nuts. They're coming here to fix the garbage disposal, and so I'm going to have them look at that. The property management people will come and fix the house here. It's very subtle. It's about to come up any minute now. And there you go. Just did it again. It's very subtle. Well, Catherine, I'm already crazy enough, so I don't have to worry about that, right? So I'm still filling in brown at the base of all these places that I put the pink, and then filling any of the white space. So it's starting to look more of, oh, can you hear it, Mike? Mike's going, oh, can you hear it? There you go, did it again. Yeah. Smoke alarm. I don't know, but it's my alarm up front that's doing it. The house alarm. It's right at the front door, an ATD alarm thingy, but it only goes ding. If I timed it, I think it's like every 45 seconds or 30 seconds, ding. But that's okay. These guys are going to be here in the next couple days. Hopefully, we'll have them look at it. There it goes again. Now everybody knows about it and everybody can hear it now. Now we all know that Leslie has some kind of defective alarm thingy in her house. So this isn't working too bad. Now I'm just taking a little bit of water and kind of smoothing out the areas in between, seeing if I've got any, here we go. There's some more area here. This didn't get a little brown at the bottom of the pot. I'm looking for anything where I put the pink or the blue or the gold. Kind of giving us definition. I know it's an abstract head, but hey. Yeah, you do phase it out, Mike. You don't even notice it. Absolutely. Mike's right. Sometimes you just don't even notice it. I'm so used to it now that, see, there it goes again. Now you guys are going to make me aware of it again. That's not horrible. First time trying to do a little abstract head. Now, the cool thing with these seed heads, until someone reminds you, yes, you're right, sweetheart. You are absolutely right. Now, seed heads, right along here, I've always thought I've seen like a dark wine color. So we're now going to take our wine and roses very carefully. A beautiful pot of wine and roses. Again, I want to work right out of the pot, so I'm going to like stir it up so I can get a nice, but I don't want it creamy or gloppy. I just want it smooth. And I'm worried because I've got this thing on my lap. I don't know. Here, I'm going to sit the thing to the right. Maybe it'll work that way for me. All right. So when looking at the pods, it looks like they also have, there's the ding again. Where's my picture one more time? It looks like, here's the coneflower. It looks like, I mean, this one's perfectly straight up, but the ones that I actually see in nature look like it's going both ways, right? So now is the time where I'm going to add some nice shading and accent here. Thank you for loving my little head. Is this dry? I believe it's dry. So now we're just going to do a little bit of a, I hope this is the right brush. It's certainly not behaving like I want it to. I just kind of want to add a little accent here to tighten up these two areas so they look like they belong. Love that wine and roses, guys. Absolutely love the wine and roses. Yes, ding. I'm laying down the color first. going to have more of it here as we're trying to make this thing look finished. Then I'm going to take a little water, just some plain water, and try to get it to smooth into what we're doing so it looks more natural. I don't want it to run down, though. I want it to stay up, which means I just spoke to myself. I should be doing it this way. So if it runs, it's going to run right back into my head and not go down into, because you know they look feathery right where they're meeting the flower at the base. And so you can kind of get away with a little wine and roses feathering right here and create a tightening up effect, shall we say, where it looks a little bit tighter. It is my cone head. Hey, cone heads, right? It's my cone head after all. Not to make fun of whatever, what was that show that had the cone heads? My God, that was in the 60s. The cone heads. Okay, and then anywhere where I still have white, I want to incorporate a tiny bit of the wine and roses. I know it's detail work, but I'm going to go a little wine and roses underneath everywhere where I put that brown. Yes, this is going to seem tedious, but the dimension I'm going to get, I'm just accenting it. Right underneath that brown, I'm adding wine and roses. Just a little bit, just a little bit. And like the same thing when I was doing those petal shapes with intent definition. Don't think about it, just kind of do it, right? Add it with clear intent. So it's almost like I'm making wine pods again. Remember how I did those gold ones? Well, I'm going to do them with the wine, because this should have lots of activity in here. Yes, ding. I just don't want to lose my way. And when I say intent is put the brush down and just do it. Don't sit and fight over. Even here, this looks too messy, so I'm literally going to do the heads. Put the paintbrush in and pull it back. See that? I'm going to feather it so I get that pointy head as if the ruffle there is pointing down. So I want an uneven there. I don't want it smooth like I painted a line. I want it to look like the, like I said, ruffles or the plant is coming down. Hee 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 hee. That's kind of fun. Now, even though this is my mistake here, because there's really no plant there, unless you could say this is part of a darker part of it. But that's kind of fun. And then where else can I put the wine and roses? I'm just going to see anywhere here what I can do another accent. Next to the brown, underneath the brown. Next to the brown, underneath the brown. Next to the brown. The wine and roses is such a pretty color with this combination. Next to the brown. And underneath it, here's another one underneath where that purpley pink went. Any place where I see white. Now, I don't like that stroke there. I want to get the same thing that I had on top, that intention. So I want to sit and go down, 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 down. Add some strokes like they belong there. My strokes have, and when I'm saying intention, it's not necessarily for you. I'm reminding myself, be intentional, be intentional, be intentional. Don't filly-fally around, because as soon as I second guess myself is when I'm going to do this, oh, let me fill it in, right? Oh, I want to be really intentional with these Wine and Roses pods. So it's looking more filled in. That's not bad for an abstract. All right, what else can we do with Wine and Roses? Well, I think it's time to kind of fool around with these veins that we did with the plants. See if I can't tighten that up a little bit. This one looks like, and being just working with intention, deciding that you're gonna do it and take the risk, and don't double guess yourself, because I get into trouble when I second guess myself. Okay, I'm gonna try to do the same thing here. I'm starting with a thin line, going over with this with the Wine and Roses, and see if I can't get thin at the end. So it looks like my plants were a little bit more intentional in the veining they were giving me. But where I put the plant, there's a texture, and that's what I was going for. I wanted to see if I could get the texture in there. So again, put it in there and paint with intent. Don't sit and second guess yourself. Doing this back and forth is me second guessing myself. Oh, it's not perfect. But if I do this and just say, okay, I'm going to start to finish and go, I'm painting with intent. See, I'm just starting and finishing and trusting my hand to do it. I'm just going to do this with intention. It is my abstract piece, so I can do that, Mr. Dinging the Bell. That one went a little off the other way. Fortunately, because it's a watercolor, I can take my bigger brush, and while it's wet, it's okay. I can fix that. I still like that part right here that I got. So here, I can make it part of it, as if I intended to do that. Pull my Wine and Roses down. See, and then I fixed it. Other than I have one more down here, and it needs to be dried now because I got water in there. Where is that gun? Because I want to do one more of these, and I know I'm better right to left. So again, I'm going to paint this. Please tell me I've got the right amount on there, and just go paint it with a stroke. Paint it with a nice small stroke. That's it. Now, again, I'm going to go the other way. Paint my veining. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine says it's coming together nicely. Thank you. But if you hesitate, is when you're going to get those weird little sketchy lines. So you might as well try trusting yourself. You can just practice on regular paper. When you come home from work, grab something, anything, and just start swishing it around with a brush on any kind of paper. Text paper is not nearly as fun as, say, watercolor paper, or you can get good mixed media paper. John did his samples with 80 weight, which is what rubber stampers use, linen stock, smooth linen stock, and it's great for practicing these paints. It's only about, I don't know, $20 for a whole ream of 250. I think he got 12 by 12s when he was doing his swatches. Okay, now it's time to do our shadows. Woohoo! really interesting to see what happened if I actually put gel medium over that head. Okay, so we're going in a different direction here for a minute. I am going to keep the pink anthurium out just in case. Now, I don't know if you guys remembered in my trumpet flower video, I made some shadow colors using white and roses as a shadow around my color, and then forest green and royal orchid, companions you would not even think of, okay? I am going to grab a paper plate from underneath here. I happen to have an extra one here because I don't want to mix these colors with the ones I've got on this plate here. Let's set that thing aside. Give me a minute. I'm going to get a clean paper plate. Put these up underneath here for support. So we've got that little bit of support. And I just want to show you something kind of mind-blowing, okay? When we were doing the trumpet flower, there was a lot of red. I went back and watched the video this morning saying, what was the key to that? Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing centered. And what shocked me is shadows are usually blue and purple, okay? So I knew I wanted to use the wine and roses, and I did in the trumpet flower video. But then I needed a blue, and I only actually had the watercolors in front of me that I had unpacked because we were doing that event where we were showing those big ones from the garage for sale. And I happened to find, I did have a few little ones. And so this is going to seem really nuts. Those of you guys that saw it, you know where I'm going with this, okay? So forest green is a really, really dark green. Wow, that is a really dark version of forest green. Look at that one. Wow. Let me get you some paper and so you can see what I'm talking about. It's a really, really deep green. Wow, that one's actually different than the one. Wow. That's, I've got two different forest greens. This is an even darker than I imagined, but it's not too bad. But see how much blue is in it, right? So I mixed forest green. And again, I'm worried about this forest green. I got 2 pots of them. This is the one I'm used to working with. See how it looks more green? I'm going to sit these side by side. Yeah, this other one almost looks like a eucalyptus that's in the plate. See how that gives me more green? That's a forest green I'm used to. That's a really strange one, even though it'll be fine to know that for shades, right? Yeah, well, look at this one, Dee. This is the one I'm used to seeing. This is a really different one. I don't know what batch that came from, but it's really, really odd. It might have been something that's made ages ago. Okay, so this forest green, I know after all of this big buildup, mixed with purple, royal orchid, right? So let's take some of this royal orchid. You can tell it's a really bright purple. You mix it with forest green. I think I have too much purple in there. I'm going to add a little more forest green. You actually get the strangest blue. Add a little more forest green in there. You really get this great shadowy blue for painting shadows on things. See what color we're getting. That's still a little bit too purple. Let's get a little bit more forest green. I'm going to sit that to the side here and see if I can't get that mixed. It was just a happy accident when I did this on that video. See that blue that it made? Look at that crazy blue it made. Wow. Okay. So you're like going, why has she gone through all this stuff to make this shadow color? Well, It's because I want to add some shadows to my leaves. Underneath my petals, I want to add some shadows around where I'm painting. And probably one of the easiest places to start is going to be here. Okay, now I have my blue violet color over here, and I have my wine and roses. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the wine and roses, just a dab of it, and start adding a shadow underneath my plate. Just a vein of it, right? Then I'm going to add this really, oh, come on, let's get the blue. Sorry. Get this interesting blue and mix it in there and start creating a shadow effect underneath my leaves and spreading it out. Let's see if we can get this to work. Where the top of that is still wet. I'm struggling with the fact that I've got wet parts and dry parts I'm trying to do this with. Yeah, my blue is not really that blue. I've got to make more of this stuff. I need to get some more of that forest green. That one that was too weird of a color really threw me. I need to mix up more of this, and I don't want it that purple. I really wanted that blue. That really gorgeous, deep, smoky, smoky, smoky blue. And the blue creates a shadow effect, and then you can take clean water. I've got a small area where I'm trying to do this. Come on, brushes get clean for me, honey. And then smooth it out. So a little bit too much of the wine and roses. I'm going to try it one more time here because this is what I was doing on the trumpet vine. So I took the tiniest bit of the wine and roses and put it along as an edge. And then I got the weird made blue, my smoky blue, and mixed it in there. And created this shadow effect. And actually there was green in it. If you go back and watch the video where I was doing the trumpet vine, this is how I was getting the shadows in between the pieces. You can start creating really nice shadow effects with those colors. And then what's the other trick? If it looks like you've got too many brush strokes in there, right? You take that paper towel. Where's my blotter? I'll have to get a new one out. And you can start blotting your shadow color. I know it looks a little strange right now, but this is how we got the shadows around those beautiful, bright, orangey leaves. That's strange. It's really strange how it's doing that. It looks like it's reacting to the purely pigments, even though it won't reawaken that green. But maybe that's that. Remember that white that I put down to begin with when I was fixing my canvas? That's what's happening. See those blotches? I think that's from me putting down the white paint. Let's see what happens if I do the same thing over here. If I try to create a shadow effect over here. I think that's what's going on. I've got that white paint and it's reacting not too nicely to it. Right? And I'm not really happy with what I'm getting here on this mix. I'm going to try another one again. So I have the right green on my brush. Just the right amount of that Royal Orchid here. There we go. There's that blue. That's the blue I want. It's a shadow blue. It's only for creating shadows. It's not necessarily for painting, right? And then let's try taking some of, come on, there's a lot of color in this brush. I can't see, get it off this really big brush. Keeps coming up with a lot of color. So just tap a bit of the Wine and Roses. And let's try it here to see if it'll work for you guys. You can see what I'm talking about. I put a slight vein of Wine and Roses next to it. And then I picked up the blue. There we go. It's not gonna, it's because there's no white paint underneath to fight with this, right? And that little bit of blue gave us a nice shadow effect. Of course, this is a really big flower. It's not like those little trumpet leaves. So I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole, but I want to see if this is going to work. So remember, after all, this is my painting. Now I'm going to take my shadow area and blend it out. So it blends all the way out into that purple I first put down. And see if I can't blot. I don't like those splotchy blots. I don't know why I did that. It's kind of bumming me out. I can't this thing to work. I don't know what the Wine and Roses splotches are for. Try it again up here, down this side. Let's get some Wine and Roses. Boy, I was so turned on when I did this on the trumpet flowers. And then I got that blue. Yeah, there we go. We're starting to get the right color. Then you get that blue in your shadow. I'll be using this color combination on other florals, so we won't get our brain twisted that it's not working perfectly today. We know we had some problems here. We know I had to paint some white paint on there. At least I thought I did, to try to cover up the smudges from the pencil. So I'm not getting exactly the most perfect background that we can test this on. Put a bee on your blotches. I'll put a bee in my bonnet, right? It's a good idea. Somebody, who was it that, was it Kathleen McGee? She was doing some piece and she says, maybe I should put a bee on it. That's funny. You just reminded me of something that she said, Donna. By the way, Donna is D. Harrington. Let's continue on with our little Wine and Rose thing down here. Might as well finish this section. Right there. And then I'm going to add this cool blue that I made to go into it. So it fades out. Fade out that blue. I think I might have also been working a little bit more of a dry brush effect. I know I was using the smaller brush. I'm repeating what I did before. You know, you think it's going to be easy, but you got to make sure all the components are exactly the same. But still, this deserves to have some kind of shadow beneath it. Because when you put a darker color next to it, or what looks like it's going to go behind it, right? It makes the lighter color pop forward. That's the whole point of why we put under shadows. Let's get a little more of that blue here. I'm not going to give up on you guys, even though I'm in a little bit of trouble. It's not doing what I wanted. I'm still not going to bail on you and go, oh, I'm done. Bye. I'll fight this. I'll fight through this with you. That's a beautiful thing of the blotting, right? Doesn't necessarily mean everything's perfect. Yeah, but you can definitely see all that white paint in there that I put in there, all that blotchy stuff. Cool. If I'd done that intentionally, see, then I could have had it go all the way to the edges, right? Let's do one more here with a little bit of the white and roses. And then my fancy blue made out of the forest green and royal orchid. It's hard to believe that a green and a purple would work, but yet the green and purple, they both have so much blue in them. You can get away with it. But I just want a little background. I need just something to give it some kind of accent. Okay. So the top is supposed to have the most light. Technically. At least in my little world here, I was thinking the light was coming up here. But I think this will look really pretty if I continue with some of this. Oops. Some of this wine and roses. I mean, I'll make the whole thing look complete. Just going to add a little bit of the wine and roses in here. So it kind of comes right up against my flower head. Little wine and roses, little wine and roses. Just kind of give it a little accent. I don't want to take away from the wine and roses that we use to put in our head. So this is just an accent. Putting in our special blue. You're going to go, she's modeling first. Yeah, I'm mopping up any excess water. Then I can take a clean brush. If I can find a clean brush in the house, right? And now run that shadow color right up to the edge. I think I want some more of that blue if I've got some. I love that blue and that wine and roses. I'm going to use that again. Like I said, I fell in love with it when I did that trumpet vine. So much so that I went and looked it up this morning, the video that I did to see how did I do that. And boy, on those red trumpet, I had done the trumpet vine in chestnut brown, pink anthurium. What else did I use? Pink grapefruit. And I laid a little kiwi green underneath it. That's why I put the green behind the leaves, because I knew I could get away with the shadow on top of that green because it worked in the trumpet flower, right? Let's get a little bit more here so it looks complete. I have very little of that blue left, but I really love that really smoky blue that I'm getting. And this is my flower after all. So then you can go in and just keep touching up every little thing till it looks smooth, right? Which, you know, on live, you're gonna go, oh, look how fabulous I am touching it up, but I know I'm gonna miss something. I'll get off camera and go, oh, I'll go back and look at it in about an hour and see if I missed anything here. And I think because I've got this shadowing here, I need to continue out with some darker color to the right. It looks kind of funny there. So just a tiny bit more of my wine and roses here. And I ran out of the blue on the new plate I made, so I'm going to have to use some of the blue from over here, this really strange smoky blue I got. But it's going to look incomplete if the whole thing doesn't kind of have that look. Again, boy, that white paint is giving me fits. You know what? This is a lesson learned, man. You cannot control it. Once I put that white paint down, and I forget, you know, the Amsterdam white paint actually has acrylic in it. It's keeping the watercolor. See that little blotch right there? It's keeping the watercolor from being smooth. I almost feel like I could smooth it out. But I'm going to try to get it as smooth as possible. One last little doohickey over the edges so everybody can say I tried. And there we go. So that's my experiment for the weekend. I wanted to do what kind of excited me for the few days was, what if I do leaves, you know, or petals on something that I can put fresh leaves down. Now we're getting the strokes there. But it's that white paint that's going to cause that. Nothing I can do about that. But I wanted to see what the leaves would do laying them down, because I love the effect that I got. I'll show you guys one more time if you're new and haven't seen this. The test was, I took these leaves from a plant, right, that I have outside, and I laid them in the twinkling H2Os, and I did this kind of a special effects thing on the canvas. And I was so turned on with how the gum arabic gave us dimension. I thought, what if I can get that to be part of my piece? So, guys, I want to thank you for hanging in with me, playing with my piece. Word of warning as you go to the website, if there's some twinkling H2O sets, primary elements that you've been thinking of putting off, I would do something about it now, because this week we're counting down those. And what we can't make anymore, we're going to start bulk packing out the other colors that's in that piece. Thank you guys for saying that. I'm a little disheartened at what the white paint did, but you know what? Lesson learned. And next time I'll just use my white purely pigments if I want to cover it up, or I have an actual real eraser, which should be here by 10 p.m. tonight. I got some good gum erasers and good drawing pencils and some watercolor paper coming, so I can continue on with playing with the watercolors. But I did my best with what I had. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me today. Hopefully everybody, there's only 15 people left. Most of the people left already, but thank you guys, the core crowd, for hanging in with me. I love you guys so much. I'll see you on Tuesday. I don't know, if I can dig into the back of the garage, I've got to find my Christmas ornaments. It's time to start playing with Christmas ornaments if I can. So I'll see you guys Tuesday. Hope you have a fabulous weekend. Once again, my name is Leslie Ohnstad. I'm the creator of Color Art Products and your host of ColorPlay Live. Hugs and kisses, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.